Okay guys, so what we'll be doing in this video is that we'll be making a Datasphere model, a DWC or Datasphere model, and we'll be consuming that into SAP Analytics Cloud. What I have in front of me is a trial system for S4 Cloud. We'll be getting the data for some sales orders from here. I did try connecting this to the Datasphere, but I unfortunately couldn't do that. So we will be taking the data from here. So I'll just show it to you. So we have sales, right? We can just click on style, and if we click the three dots here, we can export it. As such, you can export as an Excel file, right? You have to change it to a CSV file, because as such Excel file can't be accepted in DWC. So we will go into the DWC tab first. Okay, there we'll do is we'll go to the data builder tab, right? We will upload it as a fact table, right? And then we'll subsequently build the data source on top of it, right? So you can import the CSV file. It'll ask you to select a source file. You can go home and select upload it. So the data, I'll just show it to you. So this is how the data will look. You'll have your sales order, you'll have your sold to party, and the net value, and I think the currency is largely USD. I don't think there are other types of currencies, but irrespective of that, we will create a model that can handle uh, currency coming in. So there are about 2 lakh entries in this, right? So yeah, so this thing is done. Now the thing with this data is there are a couple of transformations we have to do, because I think the major transformation comes in the net value column. So I'll just show it to you. So net value has the amount and currency are together, so we have to separate them out. For that, we'll create a transform. Just click on the table, on the column, sorry, and by default you will get the option to split. If you don't, even if you don't, the easier way is when you click on a table, you can click on this create transform, and you'll get all the options to either concatenate, split, extract, or replace. So now we have split it on a space. We have the value and currency separate, right? And once the split has been done, you can delete the column. You can name this, will be named as net value 1, net value 2, but instead you have to name them as currency, right? Because it's a currency field. And we will remove the 1 from here, so that will be net value, right? So that is one thing. Then net value is a measure, so we have to make it a number, right? Make it a number. Your sales order is also a string, so it's not a integer as such, it's not a measure. So let's make it a string, and we'll also make the customer reference as a string as well, right? So these are all your identifiers. So we do need them as string columns and not. I think the rest of it looks fine. I think the only thing left is you have to set a key field. So your key is uh, sales order and set as key, and you can validate it. Let's have a look at it. Okay, your data set has no issue. Let's deploy it. Sales order S4 demo. Let's name it that. Easier for me to remember. Normally, the best way is, meanwhile, while the data is getting loaded, the best way I thought was that I could try to connect this trial system to the DWC, but unfortunately I couldn't. Right, so hence I had to export this as a file and do it. But as such, the good thing with this S4 cloud trial is that you can get a lot of data to, I would say, practice yourself, right? I mean, on this S4 system, you can create purchase orders, for example, and you can also export this as well, right? It'll fetch all the number of records that you have. Also, look at some financial data. If we come, yeah, so you can even see AR and AP as well. But anyways, that is, yeah, loaded, so we can have a look at it. This order is for demo, yes. So the first thing we need to do is a couple of changes we have to make here. We have to define the semantics. So we will we'll make this a fact, right? It's not a relational data set. We'll make it as a fact table. So the reason I'm making it as a fact is because it's easier to, I would say, define the semantics. The first thing I'll do is I'll drag net value and I'll drop it here. It's a measure, yes. And then the rest are string, fine. Currency 5000 is not required. Make it 5, right? To remember to make the length shorter as possible. You don't even sales order can be 10, I believe, if I'm not wrong. Maybe this also we can make it as 10. Okay, 10 is fine. Now what we'll do is we'll define currency. We'll define a semantic type for it, saying it's a currency code. And then for net value, double. Okay, double is fine. We can say semantic type as amount with currency, and then define a unit, which is your currency. And this currency unit column is this column here, right? So that gives the relationship between both. And then once you save it, just save it first before you deploy it. After you save it, we'll just show a data preview once, because just to ensure that the data has come up properly. I mean, there is data in the first case, because sometimes, I don't know why, but I have noticed data has not come up. But so let's see that. Okay, data is fine, right? Now we'll deploy it. Okay, and once we deploy that, okay, I think it's deployed. I think, is it saying changes to deploy? I mean, I have been deploying it. Okay, I'll deploy anyways. That's not a problem. Error, cannot convert primary key. Where is it? The length changes as such, or Okay, maybe keeping it 5,000 is not required actually. Okay, it is deploying it. Okay, there is a data conversion error for customer reference as well. I think this is not allowing me to change data. That's strange, but we will give it what it wants, right? But usually, what I think is, I may be wrong here, but should be allowing me to maintain. Maintaining a 5,000 size data isn't really necessary for these columns as such. I mean, there maybe, yeah, maybe customer reference. I might be wrong. Maybe it is 10. Okay. Anyways, the deployment is fine. Now let's go to data builder again. Now we'll build a view on top of this, right? The reason I'm building a view is because we will be creating a fact on top of the view that we have created on the business builder side. So why we'll be creating a fact is that your fact is much, I would say, similar to how you would model in your BW, right? On top of this fact, we'll be creating a consumption model, right? So your consumption model, you can say, is similar to a composite provider on a BW system, right? So we will create a fact first on top of the view that we already have. So let's just search for it. Sales, our was sales S4 demo view, right? So this was the view name. We'll take this, create it. Okay. And it does ask whether I want all the 7 attributes we had, the one measure we had, and we had a key definition for sales order, right? So we will take all of them, right? If you don't want, you can choose the second option where you can model it yourself, but this is the best option because you'll get all the data that you want, right? And now do ensure that the allow public data access checkbox is checked. It will by default it will be checked, but when you go into consumption model, sometimes it won't be checked. That time we'll deal with it anyways. Now we'll click on ready to use. So this is validated as such. There is nothing to validate here, to be precise, because it has bought everything that we want. But of course, your fact is a very useful place to create associations, right? If you want to, with any other table, for example, if you want to do that. If you do have, I mean, a similar setup to mine where you have an S4 cloud trial system and maybe you have sales order and you also want to like take one of these other tables and you can maybe create an association between them to analyze, right? So we'll come back to Datasphere now. We don't need any associations, everything is fine. This is saved, right? A data preview is not required here, the data will be fine. Now what we'll do is we'll create a consumption model, right? And to create a consumption model, right, we'll have to choose this fact source. So first we'll name it. We'll name this as sales S4 demo consumption. Okay, so that's fine. And then you have your, this is our view, right? Take this. Step 3, we will be defining an alias. An alias is not required. We'll just create it as such. Now remember that your consumption model, okay, is similar to a, I would say, a composite provider type of an object, right? Or no, sorry, I wouldn't say composite provider. Actually, I would say this is more similar to like a query type object, actually, not a composite provider. In terms of comparing BW and this one. And why I say this is because on a query level, if you do, I mean, if you are familiar with BW, you know that on a query level, you have the options to add which measures or which dimensions you want, right? So similarly here, you have to add the measure and attributes as such, right? So in fact module, if we saw it, came with the option of directly adding everything or choosing what you want. But here, directly it doesn't come by default adding everything. You have to provision them yourself, okay? And once you provision that, you will have all the attributes, you have all the measures, right? And yeah, so this is fine. We can, yeah, so as I said, there'll be an error popping up. Don't worry about that. That error is just checking this allow public data access. So like I just mentioned previously, you have to check this thing, okay? Save it now. It'll get saved. That's not a problem. So yeah, once this is saved, you can come to perspective. Now remember that creating your consumption model as such won't be consumed into SAP Analytics Cloud. What will be consumed is a perspective, right? So a part of it, right? A part or complete part of it, or the a part of this consumption model. So we'll create a perspective called sales S4 demo consumption. Sorry. Okay. And then into this consumption, we have to add the properties that we want from the overall attributes and measures that we have added, right? So we'll need, there's only one measure, so we'll need it. And then we have attributes. As such, I'll add everything so that I want all the attributes to be consumed. Okay. Once that is done, that's done. The rest of the settings you don't need. So we'll save it. And once this is saved, you can, or what you can do is, it'll be saved. Good. We'll deploy it. Okay. So once this is deployed, this is what you will be using on your SAP Analytics Cloud side, right? You won't be using the consumption model as such. You will be using the perspective. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll go into SAP Analytics Cloud. Okay. So PP sales S4 demo consumption. Remember that. Okay. So by default, your trial version of Datasphere will come with SAP Analytics Cloud integrated into it, and you will have the option of connecting these both. So unlike where I couldn't connect this S4 cloud with the DWC or SAP Analytics Cloud, you can connect your Datasphere to your SAP Analytics Cloud. So let's jump into it. Okay. So this will open your SAP Analytics Cloud tenant that is linked to the same account on which your DWC is based on. So what we'll do now is just to give you a quick idea of it, how we create a connection is you go into the connections tab here. Okay, click on this add symbol and you'll say connect to live data, not import data. So you're not importing data as such. Okay, you're not acquiring data from anywhere. You'll be creating connecting it to a live data, and your host will be the URL that you have for your Datasphere, right? You use that and connect it. Okay. I won't be showing that to you now because we already have a connection existing. Now let's go into the stories, right? Now the big thing that we would be looking forward. Okay, we'll create a classic story. We don't need an optimized one. If you want to, you can. I do think that DWC analytical dataset can be used. I may be wrong, but we'll get a classic story for now. We'll add a chart. And once I add a chart, it should ask me which dataset I want. Click on Datasphere analytical dataset. I'll enter my connection name. It will it'll sign on as such. Once my SSO is fine, I'll choose the space in which I've created the consumption model. And then in the data set, see, you have the perspective. So our perspective was PP sales as for demo consumption, right? So this perspective is what we are consuming it into this. Okay. Click on OK. And then, yeah. So now we'll add a dimension. Let's add sold to party. Then we'll add our only measure that we have, which is net value. Once you add that, yes. So now you can see net value for all the sold to parties. But the most important thing I would say is that you're getting the currency right, right? So it's saying in USD, CAD example. So you can do a currency conversion if you want. You can do that, I think. I'm not sure, but the good thing is currency is propagating well because the idea is, or I mean, we were really careful in building the whole model as such that you got the currency right, right? So it's showing in dollars, right? So that's a good thing. So now what we'll do is you can save the story as such, but this is the, I would say, the whole process of making a data sphere table, a view, a fact, and then a consumption model and its perspective. And that data is coming from an S4 system that I have, okay, which I took on a trial, into which you can export data, right? You got the option to export data. It's quick enough, right? It is. And not only sales orders, you can even take a look at AR, AP as well. I think, yep. So you have procurement. You can have you can take purchase order data as well. You have GL, right? You have accounts receivable, account payable. Everything can be taken. Okay. So that's that. Thank you for watching. Thank you.